हेलो दोस्तों, अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाजरीन। पेंस वॉइस ऑफ पेंस के साथ आज के नए प्रोग्राम में आपके साथ हाजिर हैं। आज के हमारे गेस्ट हैं जेमी स्ट्रेन, जो कि एमपी हैं हिमिल्टन ईस्ट से। और उससे पहले मैं अपने को होस्ट को इनवाइट करता हूं, अली शबीर भाई। अली शबीर भाई वेकाटो पेंस वेकाटो के हेड हैं। अली भाई, वेलकम टू द प्रोग्राम।
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you Rizwan for inviting me.
थैंक यू। अली भाई, प्रोग्राम हम स्टार्ट करने से पहले थोड़ी सी हम कोविड की अपडेट दे दें। आज के जो कोविड के केस हैं वो 103 कोविड के केस रिपोर्ट हुए हैं, जिसमें 56 ऑकलैंड से रिपोर्ट हुए हैं। और आज एक अनफॉर्चुनेटली एक पर्सन अंडर इन 70s, उसकी भी डेथ हुई है नॉर्थ शोर हॉस्पिटल में। और हमारा मैसेज पेंस के प्लेटफॉर्म से हमारी सारी कम्युनिटी और वाइडर कम्युनिटी को यही है कि कोविड रेड लाइट ट्रैफिक सेटिंग के अंदर जितनी भी गवर्नमेंट की इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं, जितनी भी गवर्नमेंट की हिदायत हैं, उस पर ज्यादा से ज्यादा अमल करें। सबसे जो इम्पोर्टेंट यहाँ पे हिदायत है, वो दो चीजों को मैं एम्फोसाइज करूंगा। वो एक है हमारा जो वैक्सीनेशन है। वैक्सीनेशन अगर हमारी कम्युनिटी में ज्यादातर अफराद के 2 शॉट्स ऑलरेडी हो चुके हैं, तो वो मूव करें अपने 3rd शॉट पे। जो बंदा एलिजिबल है, एक सर्टेन टाइम के बाद आप एलिजिबल हो जाएंगे बूस्टर शॉट के लिए, तो बूस्टर शॉट की तरफ जरूर जाएं। और मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, हमने मास्क को पहनना है। तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट ये है कि जैसे आप घर से बाहर निकलें तो आप मास्क पहने। और कई ऐसे मकामात हैं, आपके ऑफिस हैं, आपके शॉपिंग एरियाज हैं, पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट, इसमें तो मास्क पहनना लाजमी है। तो मास्क का रिवाज दें और वैक्सीनेशन की तरफ जाएं। अली भाई, कोई मैसेज आपका इस ओमिक्रॉन जो कोविड आ रहा है इसके अंदर?
इसका जी क्योंकि ये बहुत ख़तरनाक है और इसकी जो इफ़ेक्ट है वो बहुत ज़्यादा तेज़ी से इन्फेक्शन भी फैल रही है और ये सब। तो हमारी तो यही गुजारिश होगी अपने सारे सुनने वालों से कि वो जल्द अज जल्द इसकी जो है आपका बूस्टर अगर ड्यू है तो बूस्टर अपना लगवा लें। इसके अलावा जितने भी गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से जो प्रोसीजर्स इन प्लेस किए गए हैं उनको स्ट्रिक्टली फॉलो करें। स्पेशली जब बाहर निकलें तो मास्क पहनें और कोशिश करें कि बिला ज़रूरत ना निकले। जब आपको ज़रूरत हो तभी आप मार्केट वगैरह में जाएं, अदरवाइज यू कैन वर्क फ्रॉम होम एज वेल। या
थैंक यू अली भाई। तो हम होल्डिंग करते हैं और मूव करते हैं हमारे गेस्ट की तरफ। तो हमारे आज के गेस्ट हैं जेमी स्ट्रेन। जेमी, वेलकम टू द वॉइस ऑफ प्रोग्राम।
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come on this program. It's about my 3rd or 4th time. Look, I'm thank you for the great work you do, and I'm certainly delighted to be on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me formally introduce you to our audience. So Jamie Stein was elected in Parliament in 2017 on Labour Party list and went on to win the Hamilton East electorate in 2020. And Jamie is a strong advocate for economic growth and chaired the Economic Development, Science and Innovation Select Committee at Parliament. He played a key role in attracting government funding in the wider Waikato region. So, Jamie, we will talk about all these issues, and thank you again for your participation in the program. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. So, how do you going through you and your family under the red traffic light system? You are a public figure, and how you are coping up with all these things?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's certainly been a challenging time, since COVID hit around 2 years ago. And I remember someone saying at the time that they think COVID will be here, be sort of with us in some form for around 5 years. And at that point, I thought, no, that's far too long. We're into, sort of partway through our 2nd year, in terms of COVID, and it's still fairly rampant around the world. So there's still work to be done. I think that as a country, we've obviously prioritised health. And the economy's held up fairly well as well, particularly underpinned by agriculture, a growing IT sector, a strong manufacturing sector. However, things are still challenging, and as you say, in terms of the red traffic light, I just want to acknowledge everyone who's been following the rules, because it certainly is slowing down the rapid growth of Omicron. We haven't seen the spikes yet like we've seen in other countries, which would put huge strain on our health system. So I'd just like to thank everyone, for following the government kaupapa on that. In terms of our family, look, our children will be back to school on Tuesday. They will be wearing masks. All of them will be wearing masks, so that'll be something new for them. and speaking to teachers, it's obviously new, for them in terms of how do they enforce that with the children. So look, there's certainly lots of challenges in front of us. All we can do is the best we can, hopefully we can sort of move back to orange at some point soon. But I think we'll be in red for a little while at least.
Thank you. Yeah, I think very correct message at this point, that we need to take care and obviously hope for better. Over to Ali bhai.
Hi, Jimmy. How are you?
Oh, very good, very good. How are you? Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks. I'm good. Hey, I know that you are a music enthusiast from a very long time. You were a teacher of music in Berkeley School,
Yeah.
where my son used to be your student. So what part it played in your life, especially being a MP?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Look, I certainly love music. Always have. In fact, my great grandfather, back in the early 1900s, he used to carry an organ on his back and walk, around 2 miles to church every Sunday morning with an organ on his back, on horseback or walking. He did that for 50 years. And then other members of my family had played music, so I sort of fell into it. We had in my last term of Parliament, we had an MP band, which was fantastic. Some people will know the names Shane Retty, who is a very good drummer. In fact, drummer, guitarist, bass player, he could play everything. Lewis Wall, Potter Williams, and maybe one or two others. When we actually performed a couple of times, so that was quite cool. But look, I mean, like, music for me is sort of similar to sport. It's a great way. It's a great outlet, but it's also a fantastic way, to engage with people, to connect with people. And a great sort of opportunity, for our children as well in terms of growing their skills. So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly fairly active. Not playing as much as I used to in terms of songwriting. I've written about 40 songs, and so not doing much songwriting at the moment. But I'm sure that'll come back at some point when I have a bit more time.
Yeah, I saw a couple of your pictures playing drum and things. That was good. Hey, being a former school teacher, what improvements do you think you can bring into our education system, apart from increasing salaries for the teachers?
Yeah, look, I mean, like, our teachers deserve, every cent that they get. Absolutely, same as our nurses and all of those in the public service. And since coming into government, in terms of the Labor Party, we have raised salaries, and we have put a lot of money into education. One of the key areas we put in, is in terms of capital growth. So, almost every public school in New Zealand has received up to $400,000 for them to use for facilities at their school, any facilities that they like. And people watching this broadcast would have seen some of those facilities. Probably didn't know it was part of that 400,000 fund. But that's sort of one sort of small thing we've done. We've also removed school donations for up to 70% of schools. And we've also, worked hard to support our teachers, particularly in the special needs areas. There's more and more kids coming through with special needs and high needs, which is certainly challenging. And more work needs to be done on that. And we're certainly working hard to support. I think that the key thing in terms of education is ensuring that we teach a broad, diverse education and curriculum. Because when I was teaching music, I wasn't just teaching the skills, whether it's piano, drums, guitar, but I was developing confidence, creativity, cooperation, discipline. So I believe it's important that, while we do at times focus on literacy and numeracy, that we have a broad curriculum. And that's something that we're also working really hard on. In terms of the local schools, there's a few key developments that'll be taking place at some of the local schools soon. The likes of Melville Intermediate, Melville College, up at Rotorua High School, and also Hamilton Girls. Some big capital works about to be done there. Those are just a few things, but certainly still really passionate about education. our economic success is fundamentally based around a strong education system, and it's important that remains strong.
We're talking about our economic success, so you are also chairing the Economic Development and Science and Innovation Select Committee as well, chair of Select Committee. So, and being a father and former teacher, so why our children in primary schools are getting further behind as compared to other OECD countries, especially in math and science? So do we have any plan as a government? So what we are doing in these terms?
Yeah, we do. There's been there's been a piece of work that's been worked on for the past 12 months, actually, quite extensively, around our literacy and numeracy. So basically English and maths, because it certainly is a concern, that you raise there in terms of the children falling behind. That will be announced by Minister Giantinetti very soon, actually. I expect within the next sort of couple of months, she will announce the findings of that piece of work, and that will form investment from the government in those areas. Because certainly, literacy and numeracy is incredibly important, in terms of a foundation for our education system. So I encourage everyone to look out for that announcement soon, coming from Minister Giantinetti. Thank you,
Jimmy. Ali bhai?
Yeah, Jimmy, what I would like you to tell us something about that Hamilton has grown a lot since last 10 years, and your government is second tenure of Labour. So what do you think about providing more facilities for the Hamilton city and the people in Hamilton regarding the new opportunities in private and public sector?
Yeah. Oh, look. That's a great question. Thank you for the question. It's I'm certainly very passionate about Hamilton and also the Waikato region. And as was noted in the introduction there, I've worked really hard to attract government investment to the region. So I guess just a few examples of that is the Waikato Regional Theatre, which is an $80 million theatre. So we've raised 72 million, of which 12 has come from government. And construction has started on that theatre. It's right in the heart of Hamilton CBD, and it'll be the best theatre in Australasia. So it'll be 1,300 seats, which is the perfect size, and in terms of the connection with the performer and the atmosphere. So it's going to take around 2 years to build, and that will attract people to the region and give an opportunity for both local, national, and international artists to come to Hamilton. Another big government investment is the Ruakura inland port, and I was actually driving past that today when I went for a swim with my family at the Waikato University pools, and that's a $3 billion development by Tainui Group Holding, who have had some very successful developments recently. The government has put in around 70 million into that project. So basically, what that is an inland port. Right at the hub of the Golden Triangle, so Auckland, Hamilton, Tauranga is the fastest growing, the fastest growing area in New Zealand in terms of population, economic growth, and GDP. So, so this inland port will be right at the apex of that. And what will happen is containers will come from Auckland. They'll come down to the inland port. They will be opened there, and they will be shipped around the country, same day delivery. For the Upper North Island. Then those containers will be loaded there, across to Tauranga and off overseas in terms of exports. At the moment, around a third of the containers that we see on trains are actually empty. So it's not very efficient. But this will add huge efficiency to our freight logistics and create all up around 6,000 jobs for for Hamilton. We have got some tenants there already, and more tenants will be announced soon. And these tenants will tend to be around the logistics and distribution type companies, dark stores, where we have people, we just have a handful of people working there, and the goods come into those stores and then get distributed out. So we'll see more of that. And I guess just another thing is, which people probably don't know much about, is a Pan-Pacific hub has been built in Hamilton. We've got a large growing Pacific community, and that's a $12 million investment there, which the government has put in around 10. And I guess just the final thing, the Waikato Expressway will open in the middle of this year, which would be fantastic. Also, we've got the Te Huia train also. If you'd like me, at some point you can ask me about that, because that's quite an exciting development as well. So look, heaps happening in the region, lots of opportunities. Most business people I talk to are fairly buoyant, particularly, as I mentioned in the opening, those linked to either agriculture, tech, or building construction. There are some challenges in areas of our economy in terms of supply chain and cost inflation. But look, certainly lots of positive things happening in Hamilton City.
Yeah. What about in particular housing? Because the prices of houses in Hamilton has gone over the top, and it's very difficult for the first home buyers to buy houses. So anything that we would have in near future from the government to make it easy for new first home buyers?
Yeah. Look, it certainly is challenging for first home buyers, and not just in Hamilton. I know it's similar up in Auckland and in Tauranga, Wellington. Excuse me. There's been significant house price inflation, and one of the big problems it does is that it almost creates two classes of people. Those with capital and those without. And those with capital, primarily a house, have had massive inflation over the past few years, massive profits, whereas those who are renting haven't also shared in that. Fundamentally it is around supply and demand, and we are working really hard to increase supply in Hamilton. Some of the things we're doing is we've got the Peacocks development, which is work has started on that, and there's going to be around 10,000 houses, and that's in the southern part of Hamilton. So that's something. That's a bit of a slow build. That's going to take around 10 years, but work has started on that. We've also got in the northwest of the city the Te Awa Lakes development, which is 1,500 houses, which is a really stunning development. And look, it's going to have a real mix of housing, both from the towards the affordable level up to the sort of quite wealthy houses, but very much a mix of housing. And also the government's just working with council around quite a significant investment in Hamilton CBD. So the Infrastructure Investment Fund, which is $3 billion across the country. Hamilton City is working closely with government. They've got to the next stage for $300 million in the CBD, and that's primarily for apartment building in the CBD. It's time for Hamilton to grow up. And there's exciting things happening in the CBD. There's lots of jobs coming to the CBD, like ACC, 700 jobs, and others. So look, the apartment builders, and then finally around the supply in the northeast up in Rototuna, the government's looking at around 20 million, to support the infrastructure up there. So look, the problem is we need those houses yesterday. We're absolutely, we're still around 3,000 to 4,000 houses short in Hamilton, which has been fueling that inflation. And also as a government, we're going to be looking hard at ways to help first home buyers. I mean, there's already the KiwiSaver grant, but we're always looking at other ways that we can help first home buyers.
Okay, coming back to the most, at the moment, it's the most important topic, and it's one of the hottest topic of talk is about MIQ. So what are your views about MIQ?
Yeah, well, MIQ has served a purpose in terms of keeping our country safe. In terms of COVID, we've had around about 50 deaths, which when you compare that, I was just looking at Russia's statistics today. They've had around 650,000 deaths. Over in the UK and the US, they've had a lot more deaths. MIQ has played a key role in keeping those death rates low. I do acknowledge as well, though, that it is a challenging system, and it is really difficult for people, particularly those who want to come here, with eligible visas, or even at times, New Zealand citizens or residents who are overseas and wanting to come back. Because the reality is there's only a certain amount of places. And we are leaving around 10% of places open for people on work visas, particularly nurses and those very highly skilled people for key areas of our economy, where there is a shortage. So that's 10% of the spaces. A lot of the places is also New Zealanders coming home, and then there's a few other spaces, for humanitarian and other areas. Look, I mean, I guess people could argue that they would like to have more places. People often say to me, "Well, why don't you just open up another hotel?" But the limitation on it is around the health staff more than the facilities. So there is, because the challenge is our health system is still needing to operate in the same way it was before COVID, we have been fortunate to have some nurses come into the country, which has helped, but we don't have enough nurses, to ramp up the MIQ system, which leaves us with two options, it leaves us with a few options, but option number one is keep it fairly tight, which we are doing at the moment, particularly in terms of Omicron. Option number two, which some countries have done, is just open everything up. Or option number three is move to a slightly more high trust model where people can isolate at home a little bit more. If you look at some of our stages, there are aspects of that in there. So look, I guess just to summarise, in terms of MIQ, it has served a purpose. In terms of keeping New Zealanders safe, keeping all of us safe. However, it has been tough for many people, and I just want to also acknowledge split families as well, because it's been particularly tough on split families.
I just wanted to tell you one of the things that a couple of our friends they went abroad and they were expecting that after 13th of Feb there won't be any MIQ and they will come back, but they are now stuck abroad because they didn't book at that time MIQ, because they were expecting that after 13th of Feb there would be no MIQ. So those people who are stuck there, and just because of that, could they get any priority in getting the MIQ rooms and things?
Yeah, my understanding is that Cabinet are looking at that at the moment. That was the latest information that I received from officials, because like you say, they went overseas while there was one setting, and they went in terms of good faith, and now they're wanting to come back, and the settings have changed. It's like the goalposts have changed for them. So Cabinet are looking at that situation. Don't have an answer at the moment, but they are actively looking at it.
That's good to hear. Yeah. And
so
here's one more question. You can just simply say yes or no. It's no explanation is required.
Okay.
But do you believe that every citizen of New Zealand has the right to come back without any restriction home?
Without any
yes
restriction?
Or no?
Well, in terms of with no restriction, I would have to say no. And just to explain that is because, our MIQ has served a purpose of primarily keeping COVID out of New Zealand. And so someone might be a New Zealand citizen overseas, and they may have COVID. And so, we don't want to bring that into the community. Look, however, I acknowledge sort of what you're saying there in terms of, there are many people talking at the moment about New Zealanders should be able to just come home, and that the only way we could do it at the moment would be to trust New Zealanders that they would come home and isolate at their home. But then how do they get from the airport to their home as well? It's there is an element of risk associated with that.
course.
Thank you, Jamie, for answering all the question very patiently. So I will request my viewers that if they got any question from Jamie or any government initiatives, so please post on our Facebook page, and we will take on these questions. Jamie, talking about all these wonderful projects we have seen, there already some are kind of under progress. So do you think we got that all the technical workforce to execute these projects, or do we need anything from abroad like we used to do in previous years?
Yeah. Look, our unemployment rate is around 3.5%, which and then obviously that's across the country, but then some regions are even lower, and I think the Waikato region is slightly lower than the average. So look, our economy, our economic growth is currently being restrained because basically, we're almost at zero unemployment effectively, and in the past we have relied, quite heavy on the migrant workforce, coming in, and look, we actually still do. Like I said before, 10% of the MIQ spots are kept available for people on work visas. If there's some key businesses and key industries who really need people, they can come in. So at the moment we have people coming in with trades, particularly building, plumbing, electrician. We're seeing people come in with those trades. We're seeing people come in terms of the IT sector. We've seen quantity surveyors, and other sort of quite highly skilled and highly trained people come in. But look, I mean, like New Zealand is a country that's been built on immigration. We're all immigrants here. If we're not Māori, we've been here for within sort of the last sort of around 200 years. Some less, some more. I mean, my family came in 1850 from England, and look, we will always be a country who welcome immigrants. And we are very fortunate that we are a fairly desirable country for people to come and live in. We're not perfect, but we're certainly fairly accepting, friendly people, I think. And there's great opportunities for people here, and there's great opportunities for people to raise their children here. We are primarily a peaceful country. We have a good democracy. So I expect that we will always remain a fairly attractive country for people to come to. Just going back to COVID, COVID, has meant that we can't bring in, the amount of people that we want to bring in. Unemployment has dropped, probably as a bit of a consequence of that. Unemployment, like I said, is it's basically effectively zero. It's very difficult to find people. I talk to a lot of business owners. But look, I mean, like hopefully we get through that. Hopefully we start coming out the other end of COVID soon. Either in some form of how we start to live with it, or COVID just sort of dies away a little bit, or a lot. So look, things are unusual at the moment, but there still are opportunities for people to come into New Zealand. But our economic growth is being hindered a little bit. Due to that, there are a lot of businesses who would like to expand who can't at the moment.
No doubt about that. Let's work and hope that this COVID thing ends very, very, very soon. Talking about the immigrant and the communities, so what do you think the community organizations like PANZ, play a role in the community engagement? What are your views on that?
Oh, sorry, could you just ask that question again?
So, how the community-based organizations like PANZ play a role in community engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely vital. Absolutely vital role. It's people who have recently come to New Zealand. Often need quite a bit of support. As they work to understand the New Zealand system and how it'll work. So so certainly So I'm certainly play a key role in terms of helping people who have recently come to the country, and also other aspects around passing on key information. And I'd like to thank PANZ and other organisations who have been passing on key COVID messages, and encouraging their networks, to basically join in, in terms of the team of 5 million, in terms of our united approach. So certainly really appreciate that. And then the other aspect, I go to many ethnic events as an MP, always really, really enjoy them. Been to, quite a few local events there, with the Pakistan Association in New Zealand. And it's, it's a great way for people to come together, and to express themselves in their native tongue, and for the children to, to understand that they have two cultures, their family, their ancestors from Pakistan, and now they've got a new life here in New Zealand. But both cultures, basically working together, and so particularly our young people have an understanding of the language and of the history. I always enjoy the food as well. At PANZ. Often it's a bit spicy for me.
Yeah. So that's, we will next time we will make sure you will have some less spicy food for you. Thank you for encouraging. Thank you for encouraging the PANZ role, and these programs are also is part of that thing that we are making community more aware, and making that connection with the government, with the state, and directly they can talk to you as and we are kind of making a bridge, between the state and our community.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. It's absolutely so important. And I just like to acknowledge the work that all of the leaders of PANZ are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the last, Jimmy, what would be your message for people, especially these difficult times when we have COVID and the highest inflation in last 3 decades? So, what would be your message for common people?
Look, starting on that last one in terms of the inflation. We are seeing really high global inflation. Over in the States, it's around 7%. We're seeing it in terms of the UK and other OECD countries that we often compare ourselves to. And, a lot of that is linked to supply chain. And I expect it's going to be a couple of years until we fix those supply chain issues that we have at the moment. Like a part of that is due to China, that they are still working on an elimination strategy over there, and in terms of Omicron, and so they're often putting a whole city into lockdown, and if that's a port city, then the goods can't move. There are this other aspects that are fueling inflation. So inflation is due to peak in the first quarter of this year, and then slow down, towards the latter part of next year. But it certainly does affect people's cost of living. It makes it difficult because while wages have been growing, and our government have raised the minimum wage since we're in office. We've raised it every year in the past 4 years, and it's now over $20 an hour. When we came in, I think it was around 16 to 17, and we will continue to raise the minimum wage and work hard, to raise wages right across the board, because when the cost of living is higher than wages, it makes it really hard for people. Yeah, so look, I mean, like my message is we certainly are going to experience some economic challenges, in the next year. And if you need support, particularly financial support, please don't hesitate, to reach out to government agencies who can provide that support. And if you need to reach out to your local MPs as well. I think that the key thing as well, I'm just swinging back to education. What we started with is, I'd just like to acknowledge that, many families who have come here, as recent migrants, they generally really value the education system we have here, and work hard to give their children at times the opportunities that they didn't have as parents. and often people come here, for their children, so the children will have, will have opportunities, and a big part of that is the education system. And in terms of education, we all have a role to play as parents, as aunties, uncles, grandparents. Let's not just leave it to the teachers, to train our young people. The teachers play a key role, yes, but as parents, let's be active in our children's education. Teach them key values for life. Teach them, teach them aspects around the resilience and confidence, and stepping out and taking opportunities, because education is a pathway, towards prosperity, and a brighter future for people. So I guess just to sort of like a bookend a little bit, the education aspect is certainly really important. I think it's it's important that we continue to value that, and be really intentional as parents.
Thank you, Jamie. We are already 6 minutes over. So last question about, so what message about from the education, what message or advice you want to give to youth, immigrant youth who want to enter into politics?
Yeah, great. Look, I encourage them to reach out to their local MP, book in a meeting with their MP. And then, I encourage young people to join a political party. Now, I'm not going to tell anyone what party they should join, but I encourage people to join if there's an interest in politics, join a party and start putting your policies forward. Because a lot of people don't realise that that the policies we're enacting now as a government are policies that were decided by the members of the Labour Party, members of all ages. So anyone can have a key democratic role in forming policy for the next government, whoever that might be. So I encourage them to get active and start putting their policies forward. And be bold. Be confident. Put yourself forward. Don't let anything stop you. Whether it's a language barrier or anything like that, don't let that stop you. Put yourself forward. Because the more diverse we are as a country, the better we are as a country.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you very much for coming. It's always a pleasure to have you, and it's really very easy to communicate to you every time, honestly. And we hope to have you again soon. We are going to have a cricket tournament in Hamilton. It's under PANZ Waikato. It's going to be on 6th of Feb, Sunday. If you are free, you are most welcome to come and join us. Okay, it will be at Woodlands at Gordonton. So I'm inviting all my viewers as well from Hamilton and Waikato area to come and join us, and people from Auckland as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, if you could please text through those details again in terms of start time and end time. And I'll do my very best to come along. I enjoy cricket. I love it.
Yeah, I know that. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Hopefully, Ali Bhai will arrange a less spicy food this time.
Yeah.
Oh no, the food is lovely. I just need to eat something else. I need to put some of the yogurt with it.
Oh yeah, that's the trick. Thank you, Jamie. It was nice talking to you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
I think Ali Bhai, that's the end of today's program. He was Jamie Strange. I think बड़ा उन्होंने confidently सारे आंसर किए और बड़े politely सारे आंसर किए और तो PANZ के इन प्रोग्राम्स का और जो MPs और जो पॉलिटिकल जो हमारी क़यादत है न्यूजीलैंड में उसको बुलाने का मकसद ही यही है कि हम एक ब्रिज बन सकें एक हमारी कम्युनिटी के दरमियान और हमारे जो स्टेट है जो कि मूवर एंड शेकर जो डिसीजन मेकिंग जो जहाँ पे होती है उसके दरमियान तो PANZ के आगे भी कोशिश यही रहेगी कि हमारे कम्युनिटी में हमारे जो पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप है या दूसरी लीडरशिप है उसको भी बुलाते रहें और ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हमारी कम्युनिटी उनको अवेयर हो कि क्या क्या मामला चल रहे हैं
डेफिनेटली और मुझसे बहुत सारे लोगों ने मुझसे ये कहा था कि ये MIQ के मुतालिक क्वेश्चन अली भाई आपने ज़रूर करना है और प्राइवेटली मुझे मैसेजेस भी किया फ़ोन भी किया और कुछ लोग हमारे जिस तरह फ्रेंड्स हैं वो पाकिस्तान गए थे और उनका प्लान ये था क्योंकि फैब के बाद मिड ऑफ फेब के बाद MIQ की ज़रूरत नहीं रहेगी, घर पे आइसोलेशन कर लेंगे, तो वो बड़े इत्मीनान से गए थे एंड दे हैव स्टक देयर। तो ये क्वेश्चन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट था और उसका उसने कहा कि कैबिनेट जो है उस पर रिव्यू कर रही है और देखें हो सकता है कि उनके लिए कोई बेहतरी हो जाए कि वो उन लोगों को आने में आसानी हो वापस।
नो डाउट यही मकसद है कि जो हमारी जो कम्युनिटी के जो खदशात हैं, जो कम्युनिटी के जो सेंटीमेंट हैं अच्छे या जिस भी किस्म के, वो डायरेक्टली इन हमारे जो मूवर एंड शेकर्स हैं पार्लियामेंट में उन तक पहुंचे। तो वेरी वेल डन, बड़ा अच्छा आपने वो क्वेश्चन पुट किया और होपफुली के एक उम्मीद हो चली है और उसको फॉलो अप भी करेंगे कि क्या यहाँ कैसा आंसर आता है। तो उम्मीद है कि जितने भी लोग पाकिस्तान और दूसरे कंट्रीज में स्टक हैं तो जल्दी से जल्द वो न्यूजीलैंड अपने घरों में वापस आ सकें। थैंक यू अली भाई, इट वाज नाइस टू हैव यू एज ए को-होस्ट। तो उम्मीद करते हैं कि फ्यूचर में भी आपको भी हम को-होस्ट में रखेंगे और उम्मीद है कि आप सोलो प्रोग्राम भी करेंगे। थैंक यू नाजरीन, बहुत शुक्रिया। तो आज का प्रोग्राम यहीं तक है और इजाजत दीजिए मुझे और अली शबीर भाई को और इंशाल्लाह ताला नेक्स्ट प्रोग्राम में दोबारा मुलाकात होती है।
थैंक यू, अल्लाह हाफिज।